Hey beautiful, sometimes our defining moments give us shame. Tubalemye Mutwale was living a fairy tale life when she moved to a new country to study, until it became a nightmare with an abusive partner. You are listening to the Africana Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Chulu. Every week, I ask an Africana woman to invite us into her home to give us a snapshot into what happens behind her closed doors. I hope you will join me on this journey of discovery, revelation, and self-awareness. I'm not going to lie, it may become uncomfortable sometimes. However, I encourage you to push past your unease and challenge yourself to think differently. The simple act of expanding yourself to receive the unknown may be transformational for you. You are going to love Tuba. She is so bubbly and funny. We will be touching on a sensitive topic of gender-based violence. And I just want to say there's a trigger warning. If you are not in the right state of mind to hear this, I do suggest that you skip this episode. Although I must say, even though the topic is heavy, the way we addressed it is in a very light manner. Here is my conversation with Tuba. Tuba, or Tubalemye by Yahweh for short, is a communications specialist with a deep love for travel, language, natural hair, ice cream, gardens, fruit, and Jane the Virgin. If her parents were billionaires, Tuba would have studied African sociology and psychology and would have spent hours on end analyzing the ways Nigerians differ from Ghanaians, who differ from Rwandese, who differ from Malawians. Tuba is now navigating life between Lusaka and Kitwe, having spent the last decade in South She Listen, guys, I am so excited to have this lady on the podcast today. I'll tell you how we met. So she is like the funniest person. I think it was like on the blog. She was just like putting these comments and I was cracking up. You know when you say LOL, like literally laughing out loud, not just putting the word LOL. I was dying. I was like, this chick is funny. I need someone like this in my life. I was like, hello, ma'am. I would like to get to know you and be friends.
You shot your friendship shot. I'm glad you did. Because I was like, yes, I will be your friend.
So, Tuba, welcome to the Africana Woman Podcast. I am so excited you're here. I just love talking to you.
Well.
So,
me too. I'm glad we're doing this.
Yes. Okay, so where do we start? Okay, so first of all, girl, I love that a lot of the things that you love are things that I love. And I'm like, this is why we are friends. Travel, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, girl, ice cream. Do you know that in South Korea, they have a 30 centimeter ice cream? And that's like, really? I know, right? Like, I'll send you a picture. I was like, I need to go to South Korea. That's my motivation.
Yes, I'm adding South Korea to my list now. It wasn't ever, but 30 centimeters of ice cream.
Right? Like legit. I was like, what? And then gardens and fruit, girl, natural hair, girl. Like, that's why we're friends. Come on now.
We've figured it out.
I know, right? Is there anything else that maybe you wasn't on the bio, like, that we should know about you?
Books. Did I say I love books?
Oh, you didn't. Yes, because you have a challenge this year, don't you?
Yeah, I've had this challenge since 2019. I've been reading. Every time I read a book, I upload it on my Insta. And 2019, I read 26 books. 2020, I think I went up to 28 books. This year, I'm on book number 11.
Well done.
Almost Moon by Alice Sebold. So, yes, I'm an avid reader. In high school, my dad would literally... It's going well. I love it. It's it's about a mom and a daughter. They have a struggling relationship, and then she kills her mom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I know. Plot twist. Didn't see that coming, right? Exactly. That's what I said. Yeah. So, I'm like halfway through. I'll give you a little review when I'm done, but so far, so good.
Okay. You're saying in high school, did you always have like a book in your face like this? You used to walk like this?
Always. So my dad would literally have to sit with me and study at night, like grade 12. Because left to my own, I would have a textbook and then I have a novel inside the textbook and I'd be reading. So my dad would have to stay up with me to make sure that I'm studying. Poor him.
I know. We used to live in a house that was, it was an upstairs house, a flat. And like my mom would call me and then I would be coming down the stairs, like, when you're sitting and you're coming down one bum at it, like one step at a time on my bum. And I'm like, I've got the book like this going down. And she's just like, why have I been bothered?
Exactly.
I was probably, this was like in primary. So like 11, I don't know, 10, 9, somewhere there. And I'd be like this, stacking, just going down.
Like, what are you doing?
What is wrong with you? But anyway, that's so cool. I think that I just never, I love books. And I don't know why, but I like right now, it's so hard for me to really get into a book. But I guess it's almost like movies. I really like just soft material, but I've been trying to challenge myself with more challenging books because people are like, oh, you should read this, you should read this. And then I start reading it, I start getting stressed. And I'm like, I can't do this.
Internalize everything.
Exactly. I need me a nice romantic comedy that I can just cackle and giggle and then I'm good. Like I will literally finish that book in like a day, 2 days. But give me something.
Give you something harder. Like, nah, you wouldn't read the books that I like to read then. So I like books that are set in Africa, in India, the Holocaust.
No, I don't do wars and I don't do the Holocaust. I don't do them. I don't do those movies either.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. So comedies for you.
Yeah, definitely. Like I want to go to a space and laugh or cry, like, you know what I mean? But a good cry, that nice good cry.
Exactly.
Not like, oh my God, this happened in real life. Oh my God, what can I do to save the world? No, I'm not trying to do all of that. But anyway, Gail, okay, so tell us, you've been in South Africa for the last 10 years. And there's so many, okay, first of all, okay, I shouldn't say this. Okay, I'll just say it.
Go for it.
But guys,
don't limit yourself.
I know, right? And I don't like to say it as you've heard, but I'm scared of South Africa, hey?
Oh, here we go again.
I know, right? Exactly.
I apologize on her behalf.
That's why I'm saying, like, I didn't want to say it, but like South Africans, I've got some really good South African friends who I did not meet in South Africa. I met like in different parts of the world. But, I'm just scared of South Africa. And I mean, there's so many things that, the way the crime is what you call it, is magnified, I guess, on media and stuff like that. I mean, there's crime everywhere, but, it's like magnified. And then I think for me, the worst thing that I'm scared of is the xenophobia.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm just like, South Africa, I'm not too sure, guys, because people go there and they're like, we're staying here for life, Shani, this is it. And I'm like, these people who will turn on you, any moment, I know. Okay, so talk to me about this. Like, I need to understand.
Very valid points and fears that you have, to be honest. But like you said, it's just also a thing of hyper reporting. Like the crime does exist a lot in South Africa, but I was there for 10 years. I got mugged only once. Again, I don't know if I'm showing South Africa in its best light, saying only once.
I'm like, I shouldn't get mugged, girl. I shouldn't.
Get mugged at all. Right. It shouldn't be a talking point that it only happened once. But there's just a lot of hyper reporting about the crime that happens in South Africa. It's a very visible country. It's in a visible place, lots of tourism going on there. So of course, there's a lot of stories that come out of that place. And some places aren't safe, just like you would have in Lusaka. There's certain places you shouldn't go around flashing your phone. You have cash. It's the same in Joburg. You should follow a Twitter thread like CBD Twitter, like Central Business District of South Africa, CBD Twitter, and just like look at the rules, how to behave in the CBD. It's so funny. It's like, don't wear your best clothes. You should mean mug your face, walk really fast. Don't use your head to turn. If you're lost, just use your eyes. Like, don't look lost, basically. I know.
That's crazy. But you see, because I went and I was in South Africa for a fellowship for about, I think it was about a month or so. And Tuba, when I came back, and I went to the what's this? I went to the supermarket, right? And then I actually realized, oh, I can walk around with my phone and I can be texting. And I'm like, because when we're in South Africa, they're like, guys, do not do that. They're looking at you. And I'm like,
no, right? Like,
what kind of life is this?
Right.
And it just felt so strange. I just felt like, oh, I can actually be relaxed when I'm outside. So I don't know. It was very, very weird.
Right. You see, and nothing happened to you. You were there for how long?
I was there for a month, but it was a very protected space. So it's not I wouldn't say let's say I really experienced, going out and stuff like that. They wouldn't let us, they wouldn't let us go out unsupervised and things like that. Right. But I'll tell you what, the day we arrived, because it was there's a multitude of people going there. And the bus that went before us to the hotel, they were mugged when the bus was entering the hotel.
Yikes.
Right? Okay. So all their stuff was stolen, anyway, right? So we were there waiting for a bus to pick us up, but then it was taking long, and we're just like, oh, this is really taking long, even getting irritated and stuff. You know what I mean? And then anyway, when we get there, we come and hear that, oh, they were actually mugged before we arrived. So, I mean, thank God I wasn't in that bus, but...
But wow, okay. Those things happen. Yeah. So it's either in very high-end areas like that or in the CBD. So you want to strike a happy balance of where you hang out and where you live.
What were you doing in South Africa though?
So I went to study. I went first for university. I went 5 days before I turned 17. So I went when I was a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Yep. I went to study. I studied public relations and business admin. And then in my final year, I got an internship that then turned into a job. They offered me a job. So my plan was always to come back. I never thought I'd stay there. Because I was like, okay, after 4 years, I'm going back home. Going to start my life there. And then they offered me a permanent job. And I was like, this is a pretty sweet deal. So I took it. And at that time, it also coincided with the fact that I was, in what I considered then a serious relationship. So that also heavily biased my decision to stay. So it was a job, it was, a relationship, personal issues. So I decided to stay on. And from 2014 until 2020, I worked there. So first 4 years was me being a student, and then the last 6 years was me being a young professional.
Which one was better?
Oh my goodness. They both of them had their highs and lows. I particularly enjoyed 2014 in my final year. That was a fun year. I made so many new friends. I learned so much stuff about new food, and it was really fun. I think that was the culmination of me being a student. And then I moved to Joburg, to start work. Then it was okay, this is pretty cool too. I'm a Joburger. So I enjoyed both aspects. It was fun.
Yeah. So did you link up with the Zambian community whilst you were there, or you're just listen, I'm gonna do my own thing?
Right? Yeah, the latter. I never ever hang out with the Zambian community, and not for lack of trying. I think we're just not that active there. I was a member of ZASA, Zambia and South Africa, but they rarely met. And when they did, it was usually the leadership would meet. They were more policy and advocacy focused than putting us together. And I get it. There's so many issues, especially immigration, that they needed to help people sort out. So that's what they were focused on, in my opinion. And then I just never made many personal relationships. In university, it was just, we went to a tiny university called the Val University of Technology, or VUT. And we were, at any given point, maybe like 6 or 7 Zambians. At one point, 4 of those Zambians were me and my 3 siblings. So we didn't really have a lot of Zambians at that university. Things are changing slowly, but it's still one of the lesser known ones. So I didn't have many Zambian friends from there. Moved to Joburg. A lot of Zambians lived in Kempton Park near the airport. I lived all the way in the north, near Santon. And I mean, they obviously were. I don't know, I just never found it. Sometimes when like Gesh Groove would come to play at News Cafe, I always went for those. Like when he's playing, I'm there. And when he's there, then I'd like meet so many Zambians. I'm like, where are you guys? Where you guys hang out?
Right.
But yeah, that was like the extent of my relationships with other Zambians there.
So who did you hang out with? Like, what kept you busy? What are the things that you loved most about living in Joburg?
Oh, just living in Joburg. There's so much to do. So much so that Joburg can actually become your own. It can become like a small town because you just find your niche and that's what you do. You almost don't even veer out of your immediate area or, wherever your interests are. It can actually become like a really small town. So I went shopping a lot. So I hung out with my really close friend, Tessa. We met when I at the same first job that I had there. And she heard me talking to my then boyfriend in Pidgin. And then she's like, I didn't realize you're Nigerian. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just talking to my boyfriend. But I was like, then how do you understand it? She was a Jewish girl, white Jewish girl. I'm like, how do you know Pidgin? He's like, oh, my boyfriend is Nigerian too. I'm like, what? That is interesting. So we bonded on that. And then we had 4 beautiful years of friendship. We did everything together. We went shopping together. We hang out together. So yeah, a lot. I know Santon City, the shopping mall, like the back of my hand, because she loved going there. And I ended up loving hanging out there as well. And I knew it so much. So we'd shop a lot. We'd also eat. We tried out dishes from everywhere across Africa. We go to Somali restaurants. We go to Ethiopian restaurants, Nigerian, of course. To date, sometimes when I'm craving like home food, sometimes it's not even Nishima. It's like, oh, I want to go see Eba. So she did that. There's a lot of restaurant hopping and clubbing. We went clubbing a lot.
Of course, girl. Of course. Me too. Right. So, okay, tell me about this pigeon. Is it easy to pick up? Like
Absolutely.
as you learn? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the first thing you do is just sprinkle day in there. Like you sprinkle waiting, matuna day, stuff like that. Those little filler words. And then you pick it up. It's easy. It's really just English. Twisted English, really. Broken English.
Interesting. Interesting, yeah. Interesting. Alrighty. So I think, what do you think was a challenge about living in another country as a foreigner?
Just the lack of immediate family support. Like, that's one of the decisions. That's one of the things that led to my decision to come back, was just like, I've been missing out on so much community. I got used to, when I'm sick, I'm all alone. My friend would come over and then she'd have to leave. I even forgot what it's like to have somebody take care of you when you're not well, and just like be there with you, be there for you. I like normalized crying myself to sleep each time I'm sick. And then now when I've been back, I've had the flu twice. I didn't cry myself to sleep. I'm like, oh, that wasn't normal then. That wasn't a normal reaction. So the immediate lack of support. Also, I think that's what led to, not really led, but that's what maybe led to me staying in an abusive relationship. It's because I didn't have people around me that could maybe notice, that knew me well enough to notice that something is up and perhaps, advise me, people that cared enough to advise me and say, like, you should leave, or they've noticed, like, you're not okay, what's going on with you. So again, it just goes back to the lack of immediate community and support.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell us a little bit more about when you say abusive relationship, I guess, how did it start? And I feel, tell us a little bit more about that.
Because, I feel like
so,
most people like who get into abusive relationships, it doesn't start off that way. You know what I mean? Like it starts off like way really good, and then it's just like, oh, is this what we're doing? Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
It was classic textbook, just like that. Met this nice guy, really caring. He'd bring me groceries when I was still staying on campus. Then I'm like, what? This a thing? Guys do this? I've never had a guy do this for me. So that was really nice. And then we got into a relationship, and I'm really good with dates. So I remember dates and numbers and stuff like that. So it was 7th September 2014. And I was sitting in the car waiting for him to finish at church. He was a staunch Christian. So waiting for him to finish at church. And then I had his phone, and on the phone pops up a message from another girl like, oh, hey, baby. I'm like, oh, baby? But I'm the baby in this relationship. So, when he comes back, I confront him about it. And he's like, don't go looking for what you can't handle. I'm like, what? And yeah, he's like, yeah, don't go looking for stuff if you can't handle it. So then he slaps me that same night. And that's just how it started. Like, oh, look at what, then he began to apologize and say, oh, look at what you're doing, making me do. And that characterized the entirety of our relationship. It would be me trying not to look for what I can't handle, and then, me still triggering him and after he hurt me, and then him making me apologize for what I've made him do.
So that first time that he slapped you, like, what was running in your mind?
The words literally were like, oh my gosh, I'm like Rihanna, because the story of Rihanna being hit by Chris Brown was still fresh in our minds, and I'm like Rihanna, I'm getting hit. And I found a strange sense of comfort in that. I'm like, well, happens to the best of us. I know. Yeah. I was like, if this can happen to Rihanna, then I think it can happen to me as well. It's normal, I guess.
So you didn't think that let me leave? Because I'd be like, friend, I'm out of here. First day.
The first day, I was like,
one touch. I had no.
I obviously was upset, and he apologized, and I was like, yeah, this is, it's fine. He's not going to do it again. I didn't think to leave the first day. Actually, the first couple of times, to be honest.
So then how long so from the time that you had started dating, when did this start?
So we started dating in about April, and then started in September. So maybe 6 months, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then how long were you with
September? A year and 3 months in total. So I left him in Feb of 2016.
Okay. Yeah. So, I guess what okay. So what do you remember as being the turning point for you thinking, okay, no, I need to get out of this?
Oh, it was gradual. But when he pushed me down a flight of stairs, then I was like, oh, Tuba, you're going back to Zambia in a body bag. This ain't it. So, but then I knew myself. I've always been kind of fairly self-aware. So I knew that if I leave him before I'm ready, I'm just going to go back. Like, I needed to hate him so that I can leave and never come back. So I waited. And I gambled, and I would never, ever, ever advise anybody to do that, because I was literally gambling with my life. He would strangle me, and he would lock me out of the house, sometimes in the cold. And, he would hit me, throw me down. The throwing me down a flight of stairs happened twice. And he did that, and I could have broken my neck. I could have come back. I could have come back as a corpse, But I was still waiting for that moment when I would snap. And it did happen. And I was waiting for that to happen, and then I knew I'd leave. And never look back.
Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to wrap this around my mind, because you said you're waiting for you to hate him. I'm like, girl, be the first one. It's like, I hate you, boo. Like, what? Wow. Okay. So, like you have said that, okay, first he started with a slap. He's thrown you down the stairs. He's strangled you. What else did he do? And you said, like, none of your friends noticed?
Nope. He was crazy. He was like, yeah, I'm not going to leave a mark on your body. Like, I will never hit you to a point where people see it. Like, it will just be only you and I will know. And none of my friends would have believed it. When we were out at a braai, he would literally feed me, like cut up, meat and feed me. And he'd hang out, like, how the natural order of things are at the braai. At braai, it's like ladies are making salad and the guys are like doing the meat. And he would always be where the ladies are with me. And my friends are like, this guy really loves you. I'm like, save me. But yeah, I'd be like, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he does, I guess. And yeah, I used to convince myself a lot as well.
Yeah, but like, okay, so you had started dating when you were in college, right? Yeah. And then that's the time you graduated. So then what happened? You found your own place? Like, what was the story?
No. Then, like I said, when we first met, I was living on campus. Like, I made a point to mention that because after I finished uni, he was like, "Oh, you should move in with me." And I was like, "Okay, I guess." I was spending most of my time with him anyway. Like my last semester, even though I really, really enjoyed uni, like my last year, but I was never on campus. I would like party and then go back to his place, go out and then go back to his place. So I was practically moved in already. And then I tried to find a place in Joburg, but it was so expensive then. I was on an entry-level salary, and I was like, he's like, you don't have to do this, just come stay with me. I'll give you my car. So he gave me his car, and I would drive, to and from work, 83 kilometers one way. I was in a constant state of exhaustion. I was always tired, and sometimes I'd come back and be a punching bag. And yeah. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to throw this one in really quickly.
Okay.
Because I'm just being scandalous. But like, you moved in with a man, Tuba. Like, what did your parents say?
Don't tell my mom. Oh my goodness. They didn't know. Well, when they came for my graduation in 2015, my mom traveled with my brother. And my brother was so suspicious. He's like, you live in a 2-bedroom house? I'm like, yeah, it's really cheap here. Because, it's like living in Kitwe. We lived in a town called Freeneging. Small, not small, but, farming town. Yeah. So life really was considerably cheaper than Joburg. But he was like, okay, how much do you pay? And I told him what I paid, what my ex paid. And then he's like, oh, this is a really nice TV sound system that you have. I'm like, yeah, I got it on Groupon. Yeah, he was like, I think he wasn't buying my story. But my mom, she was excited. She was telling her friends, yeah, Tuba stays here. She lives in South Africa. She has a house. So what we had done is we had taken everything that belongs to him. My ex, his shoes, his clothes, everything. And we moved them all to his friend's house. And they kept him there for like a week. He moved with his friend, and then it's like I live alone. So I know. Oh my goodness. Right. Yep.
Okay. Now let's go. So you were waiting for as you said, you're waiting to snap and hate him before you can actually move. So what made you snap? And then what did you do after that?
Oh, goodness, my favorite story to tell. But what made me stop? It was just, I don't even remember what was the straw that broke the camel's back or whatever that thing is. But I remember it was after a party once and he had drank Black Label. To date, I don't like seeing that beer because it really made him violent. Like, it made him the most violent. And we'd gone to a party and then he was like, accusing me of cheating because another guy was looking at me. It's almost like very cliche, actually, how it was. And I was just like, actually, I think this is it. I can't do this anymore. Like, yes, there's so many good parts, but this definitely outweighs everything, outweighs any slight positive that there could be. So I needed to plan my exit quietly. So I started looking, online. I started looking for a place, and I found one. And I told the guy, I'm like, yo, I don't know when I'll be able to move. I was open about him with my situation. I paid a deposit. And then my ex found out. He found those messages. And that day, he locked me in a room from about 10 a.m. to perhaps 4 or 5, and he hit me the whole day. He had my phone, so I couldn't reach anybody, and he would like go out and take small breaks and then come back. And yeah, that's when I was like, okay, now we need to expedite our plan. Like, we have to leave. I have to leave. I talk to myself like a we. But yeah, like I have to leave.
Hold up. He locked you in a room, and then he was just hitting you from what time again?
10 in the morning to maybe 4 or 5.
Were you like somebody who like also tries to hit back, or you were
I
just
learned
like
not to fight back? I learned early on, like it's just best to take it and then you stop.
Was he like a big guy? Like was he tall? Like
not even. Like not even. Maybe he was like 1.7 meters, but 5 foot something, and not a big guy at all. Slim guy even. And yeah, so it wasn't like he wasn't physically big. He just implanted this fear.
Yeah, okay. So there was something in your mindset that like just didn't allow you to move.
I was broken. I was broken. I was a shell of myself. I was not okay. And I stayed because I'm like, he's the only one that can comfort me anyway. It was weird. Like he'd hit me, but he's still the only one that I want to be with after all these episodes. So I definitely was broken. And I know, I think it's just like very classic abused girl behavior, broken down girl behavior. I was 21 at the time. He was 37. So there was also a very huge imbalance in our age. Of course, I didn't even know his real age. When we met, he's like, oh, I'm 30. And when I sent a pic to my sister, she was like, this man is not 30 years old, Tuba. He's way older than he says he is. And I'm like, nah, I don't think so. He's Nigerian. They look really gruff, But yeah, no, he was actually 16 years older than me. I had no idea until like way into the relationship. And his excuse, oh, but I didn't want you to leave me because I had already fallen for you. I thought you would have left.
So even like these other girls, like the ones which you had found that, he was conversating with and things like that, they were still in the picture this whole time?
Oh, yeah. They were. And a lot of them would be like, oh, well, what do you expect? We share men. Where are you going to leave and go where?
Okay, tell me about the religion part. Because you said he was a staunch Christian man, huh?
He was a staunch Christian man, as in talking in tongues and talking the words. He would preach even. At some point, he was
which
like...
tongue is it? Which spirit was speaking?
Call him. Yay! Also me, I don't know.
Okay.
Also me, I don't know, hey?
Okay.
And he was like, he went to a Pentecostal church. I maintain going to a Baptist church, but sometimes I go with him, just because. And he was really active in the church. Like the pastor would call him, like, yo, come help me with this. When you're like daddy's boy, and they did call him Pastor Daddy, so he was quite literally daddy's boy. So he was that kind of guy.
So what do you feel about that? Like someone who, is so deeply entrenched in Christianity, and then they have that type of behavior. How do you reconcile that?
I don't personally, actually. It put me off Christianity. And just that whole, I just thought it was a charade, hey? And I'd look at other, members that are high in positions and the lives they were living as well. I was like, this can't be it, So 2015, when I left 2016, there was so much change for me. I had just left this relationship, and I also started this journey of deconstructing my own faith, which is still ongoing. It's almost like a never-ending journey. But that, I think, was a catalyst also. I could not be in the same institution as this guy who does these atrocious acts to me and other women, and, still be esteemed, in the church. I was like, nah, this isn't it. And I had, other questions that just weren't answered, I'm like, why would this happen to me? Not to take like a victim mindset, but like, why would this happen to me? And I just didn't find the answers that I thought were right for myself. So, yeah.
Okay. So you've been locked up. We're going back. You've been locked up, for the whole day, and he's been violent against you the whole day. Then what happened after that?
And then like a switch, he just stopped, and then he starts crying, and he's like, "I'm sorry, but also look at what you made me do. Why would you want to leave me? I've given you." I know. I know. I've given you my car, and he always had a tally of the things that he did. I've given you my car. I pay the rent in this place. I always provide. I even do your laundry. I even cook. How many girls come home from work and don't have to cook? You don't have to deal with any of that. I don't even know what you do with your money. I never asked for it. Like, why would you want to leave this? I am a broken man. But, it's because you do these things to me that I react like this. Yeah. It was my fault that he had locked me in a room. And so he always had a tally of all the things that he did, and he would just like regurgitate them. And we would do the same dance. I would cry and be upset, and then he'd ask forgiveness, and then I'd understand. But that night I was just playing along. I'm like, no, I'm leaving. I'm going to intensify my efforts to find a place. So anyway, that house, I ended up losing it, because then he made me cut off communication with that guy. So then I had to ask my other friend, my one friend, the same girl, the Jewish girl that I was talking about. I think she may have known. Like, I used to hint to her, like, sometimes he can get a bit rough, but I never said this guy hits me. But I think she knew. So then I asked her to then start looking, like, if I could use her phone to communicate with other landlords. So then I started using her phone so that, he has no idea of what I'm doing. So I started intensifying my search for another place, found it, and then she would talk to them. Like, I would talk to them on my friend's phone. And I was open with them. I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to move, but actually I'm happy to pay rent until such a time when I can move. So that was my mindset. And I had reached the point where if I didn't leave, I was probably going to stab him. I was going to go to jail for murder. So I had to leave.
Okay, so you found a place?
I did. Found a place, told the girl, my situation again, and she understood, thankfully. And then one weekend, he had gone. He's like, I'm going to see my cousin. I'm going to come back, on the Friday. He left on a Thursday. He's like, I'm going to see my cousin. I'll come back on the next day, Friday. He didn't come back on Friday, and I just knew he wasn't with his cousin. He was with another lady. He had gone to Pretoria. So I was like, this is my chance. So I called my friend over, my friend Jemima. Jemima came over, and I was like, you have to help me pack. I'm leaving tonight. So we packed up my stuff, everything, took it over to her house, because I could only leave. That was now Friday when we were doing this. I could only leave on Monday. I don't know, probably like a problem with the truck or something. I don't know. But I could only go to the new place on Monday, but I needed to leave. So we packed up everything, took it to her place, and then she's like, let's cut up his clothes. I'm like, yeah, actually, let's do some damage. Oh, and we wreaked havoc on his place. He really loved fashion. Like I'm not a fashionista. I don't know style or anything, but he used to dress up really well. He had really nice clothes, and we cut up everything. We cut up all his clothes, including what was in the washing basket. And then we took the beddings. I gave her the beddings. Like, do you want the beddings? You can take them. She took the beddings. We, poured cooking oil on the carpet. We broke the wall. Whatever I couldn't take, I gave away or broke. Like the washing machine was huge. So I went and like dug with a nail cutter or something and dug the little buttons out. And then I took the microwave and I dumped it in the bathtub. And then I switched on the tub and just drowned the microwave in there and cut the cords, the TV again was too big. So I just like slammed it on the floor and it broke. Yeah, we ripped up the curtains.
In all of this, what are your neighbors doing? Because I can imagine it's like a ruckus.
Oh, no. We were very calm. Actually, we were just like laughing about it. I was angry, but it wasn't like a scream.
No, I know, but then like just the noise. Like imagine you've dumped a TV. Boom, like no one is gonna come over. Like never. I think it's okay.
Nobody used to come over when he would slam my head into a wall. So
that's true.
Exactly. So they knew those sounds, I guess. And then my friend comes up with the most genius idea. Oh my gosh, I said her name. I'm sorry. Oops, I should have kept her identity secret. Now everyone knows she's crazy. It was her idea, not mine. I did go with it though. She's like, let us defecate in his pots. I'm like, yes, it's a great idea. Why didn't we think of it? So again, we took everything in the kitchen, the spices, the food, the other pots, and we left 2 pots. And each of us went to town. Have you ever tried doing number 2 in a pot? Yeah.
No, girl, no.
I know.
I haven't.
It's not something that people can say, yes, I've done this before. We did that. And we poured, oh goodness, we filled those pots with water and then we boiled that. I have never smelled anything more vile in my life. Like that house will never smell the same ever again. Like it's been 6 years now, but I think that's still that smell still lingers. So yeah, we did that. Obviously, we had to switch off the stove right before we left. So like we were like gagging and switching off the stove. But I was at that point, like I said, I was gonna go to jail for murder if I didn't leave. Like I was contemplating, how do I get a petrol bomb and just bomb him? I hated him. I got to that point of really dark anger and hate in my heart. And I left, and I finally left, and he came back on the Sunday, and he's like, the first words he said to me were like, oh, so you did it. Come home, let's fix it. I'm like, me, come there. You're mad.
You still had the phone, you didn't change your phone?
I still had the same number.
I'd have thrown that SIM away. Like, anyway, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He didn't really have much to do. He was undocumented, so I had kind of that advantage. I knew he wouldn't go to the police. South Africa really does struggle with xenophobia, and a Nigerian man coming to report that, his girlfriend has done this, they were probably going to ask him for his passport first and then end up deporting him. So yeah, I think that gave me the kind of confidence that I had, because he even knew where I worked. I did tell them at work what was happening, but he knew where I worked. He knew where my friends lived. He had my phone number. But I didn't care. I knew there was really nothing he could do. So I left, moved to Joburg, broken girl. Then I cut my hair, as one does when one is in a new stage. Yeah. Then I started going to therapy and doing yoga and just trying to improve my life.
How long after you left did you start going to therapy?
Maybe 2 weeks later. So I left mid Feb, and by the 1st of March, I was going to therapy. Mm-hmm. My employers then were very, very helpful. The one paid for the first 4 sessions, and then I think she was friends or something with the therapist, and then the therapist gave me a discount because it wasn't part of my medical aid. My medical aid didn't cover that, so she gave me a discount, and she, like everybody, was just so committed to helping me. And the other one paid for yoga. She's like, oh, yoga helped me when I was going through a divorce. I'm like, it's not a divorce, but actually it's worse. It felt worse than one. And so the other one paid for my yoga sessions. And yeah, I'd say I missed that sense of community, but perhaps it's because I wasn't sharing what I was going through. When I did open up, people came through for me. People really did come through for me. I also did face some backlash, and I was ostracized from his church. I mean, I was going to leave anyway, but nobody believed me when I told
stupid.
people.
Sorry, that church is okay. No,
I know.
On the show.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
You see me using euphemisms.
I know.
The possible cuss words. Yeah, they were like, oh, the Mrs. Pastor then was like, is that the only reason that you will leave? I'm like, hey, yes, actually, I was going to die if I didn't leave. So yes, that is the only reason that I will leave, you know? So there was that. And then everyone was just like, but also, why did you? Then now, I mean, I definitely overreacted in the way that I left. So now I was the bad guy. Like, oh, what do you expect? You left like that. You were probably crazy. You were maybe the one even hitting him during this relationship. Yeah, I was like, actually, I don't need any of this. I just cut communication with them. And yeah.
Okay. Bless you whole church. That's all we can say. In Jesus' name, may you be blessed. Moving on. Okay, Tuba, help us to understand. What was your family background? Did you come from a home that is, abusive? Did you see things like that? Or because I think a lot of people think that, because someone experienced it before, then they would tolerate it again. And then, especially like you're saying, you are an you're an educated woman. You're an educated woman, but you still found yourself in that situation. Help us talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, but these things can happen to any and everybody. I grew up in a loving 2-parent home. My parents have been married for 48 years this year. Wow. And they remain the best example of love that I've ever seen. Like, they are so devoted to each other. Actually, the secret prayer that when they die, they should just die together, because I don't know how either one of them can live without the other. Like, they do everything together. They are friends. They absolutely love each other. And, we obviously were raised in the Christian faith. So we were raised with these Christian morals and values, be kind to one another. We had this saying, joy, Jesus first, others second, yourself last. So, we're taught to be, giving and just, share your gifts with the world. Like, I had a really good childhood. I mean, I think it was on your Instagram, one of your Instagram posts, when I commented my favorite childhood memories, me sleeping under a mango tree on a Sunday, my mom reading to me, and my dad playing the guitar. Like, come on, it's like right out of a story. And then I went on to experience that kind of abuse. I had never experienced it at home, but I still tolerated it. I accepted it. So I don't have an explanation for it, except I was just broken, and perhaps, the age imbalance, the age difference, it was like he was grooming me to just accept and be with him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what did you discover about yourself in therapy then? What did therapy do for you?
Gosh, there were so many layers, actually. So many layers of myself that I had to uncover. Esteem issues. Being the youngest, I almost felt like I never had a voice at home because I didn't really need one. Decisions were made for me. Stuff, if they were not made for me, they were just like made about me. I wasn't really involved in like family affairs because Tuba is the baby. So I was used to taking direction from someone. And to date, I actually still am kind of like that. But at least I know where it stems from. But I was used to taking direction from a big sister or my mom or my dad, and then in comes this figure, my ex, that was kind of like embodying all of that. And, I just blindly took his direction without really questioning exactly why I'm doing that and what's going on. So, yeah, definitely had some esteem issues to work on. Also, the fact that I was ripped away, so to speak, from my family at such a young age. Like I said, I was 16 when I left home. I'm glad that I got the education and the experience that I got in South Africa, but that was really young to be living alone. So I had this child that wasn't what is the word? Not baby enough. That wasn't like allowed to really grow and come into her own before being pushed out into the world. Like, go on, go do you. You have to now. I went from 1 year, my dad has to sit, with me as I study, to now managing my own study schedule, choosing whether I can go to class or not, choosing, what I do, who I hang out with. It was a lot to put on a 17-year-old. And I guess, the effects showed 4 years later when I made decisions like the ones that I did.
So I guess during the whole time, you didn't tell anyone in your immediate community. Did you tell your family?
No.
You were living with a guy as well, so we might as well add one.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Did you ever tell them? Like, you never told them? Okay.
They don't know. Wait, my mom doesn't know today. My parents don't know today, but
okay, who did you tell?
It's never come up. My sisters. I told my wife.
She said it's never come up. Well, of course it's never come up, girl. They're not going to be like, Tuba, who was that man who was beating you? Like, really?
He actually did call my parents. Oh my goodness, so many layers to this story. But he found my parents' number, and then he called them and he's like, "Oh, Tuba has stolen my things. And, I do so much for her. I do her laundry." And that kind of sparked a question in my mom's mind, like, why does he do your laundry? I'm like, oh, yeah, because he has a washing machine. But,
Okay, so you told your sister. Okay, so you told your sister. When did you tell your sister?
Yes, I did.
When?
When I left in 2015, I was like, yo, that guy? Because she was really fascinated. She was staying in Ukraine at the time. She was studying in Ukraine. So I was like, that Nigerian guy? She was like, so she knew Nigerians. And she asked me, he's a good guy. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, he's good. And, she obviously wasn't going to prod anything if I wasn't offering. But I was like, yeah, that Nigerian guy I was telling you about? Yeah, we broke up. He slapped me. And she's like, what? And she called me immediately. And then I was just going to tell her he slapped me. And that's why I was going to give people a very sanitized version. Yeah, no.
Girl, and he slapped you. Okay, and then she did.
And then she called me, and then I was like, yeah, actually, he did more than slap me. He was hit me, or she was like, you have to tell Mwingwe, that's our brother. You have to tell his friends. I'm like, but again, what the biggest thing I used to feel was shame. I was ashamed that I was in such a situation. Like, me. Come on, it's me. I'm, like you said, educated, young. I've been here and there, and I used to feel ashamed to tell my story. It's definitely when I was in it, I was like, hell no, nobody's gonna know. But even when I left for a long time, I couldn't talk about it because I was just ashamed. But because then people very insensitively ask, why didn't you leave? It's not that easy, unfortunately. Broken like that, it really isn't. So, yeah, it took me a while to open up to the rest of my sisters. I have 5 sisters. I'm 7 of 7. Yeah, so it took me a while to open up to the rest of them. And even then, I would still be grappling with issues of shame. I'm ashamed that I went through that and I allowed it.
I mean, when they did hear you opening up and telling that story, what was their reaction?
It was a mixed bag. There was, of course, why did you leave? Why didn't you tell us? Where is he now? Are you, have you moved on? Are you fine? They're almost taking it I've just told, it just happened yesterday. I'm like, yeah, actually, it's been a couple of months now, So, yeah, they were, my sisters I come from a very Christian home, so they would send me Bible verses. Oh, you should read this, you should read that. But then, especially then, I wasn't even open to it. I was very disillusioned with the whole thing. I'm like, this is a waste. I should have never told them, But they were doing the best. Being confronted with such a situation, their baby sister, the baby of the house, was going through this. It must have been strange for them to deal with as well.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, if mom does hear this...
Oh, my goodness. I hope she's not home.
She's not home. What are you going to do, girl? What you going to do?
Right, exactly. I should ask her, what are you going to do? I don't know. Only kick me out of her house that she thankfully let me stay in for a year.
Yeah. Okay, so what brought you back to Zambia?
COVID.
Yeah.
So COVID happened. We started working from home 13th of March, 2020. And then I had my routine on lock. I would wake up at a certain time, do my Pilates in the morning, and then start work, have lunch, knock up at 4 p.m., not go anywhere. It was bliss. And then I had done, as a lot of people did, done a lot of hoarding or, bulk shopping, as I like to call it. So did that. That was good. I never needed to leave the house until one time I needed to leave the house and it was just apocalyptic. It's masks everywhere. Shops are empty. I'm like, this feels very lonely. Then I don't know what that did to me. And I just started thinking, I think I should go home. Maybe just go visit home, go work from home for a little bit. I'm like, you've seen my mom's garden. It's beautiful. I'm like, I could work in her lovely garden, fresh air, quiet. So I came down to visit them. Also, I hadn't seen them in some months. So December 2019, I was away. Yeah, I'd last seen them maybe like 8 months before that. Yeah, when I went to visit when I came back for my friend's wedding, May 2019. So I hadn't seen them, in a year, actually. So I came home, visited for like 2 months. Yeah, in my mind, it was supposed to be a 2-month trip. Then I came home and saw how much easier life in Zambia is, relatively, in comparing certain things, obviously. Every country has its challenges, but the community, living with my parents, the ability to save even more, just that peace. And people were doing a lot better than I thought they were, to be honest. I was also battling with I felt left behind. My friends, they were building, they had multiple cars, and I'm like, yikes, Tuba, what are you doing? I felt like that. So I decided to stay. I started to look for jobs tentatively. I'm like, let's see what bites. So I started looking out for jobs. Also, it didn't help that my job in Joburg became really toxic. I couldn't do that. I was ready to leave. I just didn't know that I was ready to leave on such an extent. It just became really bad. I went from my dream job where I never needed an alarm clock to get up to me having to just push myself to get through the morning. Okay, just work till lunch. And then after lunch, just work through the end of the day. It was getting constant verbal abuse from my boss, and none of my colleagues were happy. It was horrible. So I started looking for a job, and thankfully, I found one that was really good, offering me way better conditions of service, and they were also continuing to work from home. So there wasn't much of a transition. So I quit my one job on the Wednesday, and Monday I logged into a new email from the same desk in my bedroom. And it's going to be 1 year on the 13th of July since I came back, and it's been a great year. I've loved it. I've really loved it, especially towards the end of 2020. Yeah, absolutely loved it.
Okay, no, that's good. So I guess, what would your words of advice be to a young, impressionable woman that decides or family has shipped off to another country to go and, literally, to go and study and be like, the streets are paved with God. Go there. But what would your advice be to that young woman?
First of all, this question makes me sad because I know that we're coming to the end of our interaction. If I have to give out words of advice. And oh my goodness, so conflicted on this one. So very conflicted on this one because my first thought is to take the opportunity, jump at it. It's a privilege to study outside of the country, and you should recognize it for what it is. But at the same time, I think do your research. They have a lot more resources now than we did back then. To be honest, I don't even remember Googling anything before the year 2012. I don't remember Google in my life as a thing. So I don't remember really looking for stuff, doing research online properly. So I would say take the opportunity and do your research on how to healthily adjust to different cultures, the culture shock that you experience because it is real, how to deal with that, how to navigate, your old friendships, which are now going to become long distance, and how to make new friends, all of that. Oh my goodness, I had the hardest time finding new friends when I was in first year. So try and do your research on that, perhaps reach out to more people. So take the opportunity and do your research. That's what I'd say in a nutshell.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, something that I have been trying to speak a lot more to is I feel that parents also need to take a bit more responsibility and not just be like, oh, because I'm sending her, I've been saving all this money, so I've done my part. So I just wash my hands. No, friend, no.
Actually,
like you need to do the research. You also need to do the research. You also need to set up systems. So, have those conversations. Like if you find yourself, with your child, if you find yourself in a situation that is dangerous, make sure you tell us, make sure that, these are the people who you can call, like, you know what I mean? Set up those systems. I will not accept it anymore that a parent is just going to be like, oh, let me just send my child. No, that is negligence.
Right.
Absolute negligence.
I'm inclined to agree with you on that one. It's so true. Like we go from, especially Zambians, we go from being, just Chulu or Tuba to being black in these countries. Do you know how jarring that is? Here in Zambia, we have like 2 white people. We don't know what racial issues are.
Right.
when they live in Bukushi. So you go, and now you're a black girl. Like, hey, okay.
And then everyone expects you to know exactly what that is, like understand the context, understand the history,
and you're like, understand what should offend you and what shouldn't offend you.
Exactly.
It's a lot,
right?
Because we have to learn these things. We do. Rant over.
I know. It's like so much, and I'm just like, I will not accept people just sending their children anyhow. To these countries. Like you need to do the research. Like yes, it's a great opportunity that I wouldn't want to rob anyone of, but then to go in with open eyes, I think, and know that these things will affect their mental health. And then really you're thinking that you're sending your child for 4 years and you're like, oh, it's only 4 years. But you know what? This has lifetime lasting effects. Then what? And then and then you get surprised. Oh, my child is drinking all the time. Yeah, because the child is stressed out. Right?
Yes, parents need to do better. Absolutely.
Oh, goodness. Anyway. All right, love. Yes, we have come towards the end of the conversation. However, just hold on.
Okay.
So in Africana Women, we have a little saying, which is know your roots, grow your purpose. So I have some questions for you. Are you ready?
Okay.
Just say whatever comes to your mind. Yeah?
Okay.
So what are you rooted to?
My culture.
Tell us more.
Again, it came from realizing that I'm a black girl. When I moved out, when I went to
you're talking to me?
at home, like me? How? Okay. I'm just the girl that speaks Lamba and really ghetto Bemba in Zambia. Like that's me, But I think being away and only having to speak English and learning 2 new South African languages, I needed to fit in. So I learned Sesotho and Zulu. Made me really.
Wow. Because I can't, like some of the names, I can't even twist my tongue that way.
Oh my goodness, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, so like then that learning these 2 additional languages gave me a much more deeper love for Lamba, which I'd grown up speaking. Like by 6 years old, I was already trilingual. And I was like, man, this is actually something. I didn't realize how beautiful a gift my parents gave me to teach me Lamba, as one of my very first languages. So my culture now, I'm like so interested in Lamba culture, where we came from. We came from Sudan. Can you believe it? And yes, Lamba is a very feminist tribe. Our leader, Chembo, like she couldn't anymore with the patriarchy from the I think we split from the Bembas, and she couldn't do it anymore, and she just left. She's like, I'm leaving. Left her husband, left the entire kingdom, and went and started her own people in Congo. Started there, and then some of us came down to the northwestern province and then settled in the copper belt. But we are very we are a matriarchal society, and our I'd say we're all feminists because we stemmed from this lady Chembo.
Wow. Okay. You just gave me a whole lesson right there. Okay. What what are your favorite ways to nourish your mind, body, and soul?
Reading, sleeping, chilling in the garden.
Yo, this is our reference.
Also me. Like let's move in together.
Like I know it.
Can I do it?
We're always, I know, right? Yes, we're always like, oh, you're in the garden. Like,
I know,
yes.
whenever you come
Same vibes.
Garden, I'm like, wow, I love it. I need to visit Kawe.
You should. Oh my gosh. Yes, you should. Yes. Definitely. Okay. Do you have a weakness that has now become your superpower?
Oh, I have a weakness that's become my superpower. Wait, I'm trying to think what my superpower is. Honesty. I used to just say anything to anyone, and sometimes it will become a mulomo because I'm just trying to be honest with this person.
Right.
When it's not my story to tell, it's not my honesty to give. So It's like, yeah, Tuba, you have a big mouth, so maybe don't run it so much, But that same honesty now has become, I don't sugarcoat stuff to people, I'll tell them as it is. If it's not my place to tell them something, then I won't. But if it still bothers me, then I'll try and find my own perspective and be like, yo, I don't think you should do this, or I think this is really good. Because again, sometimes we think honesty is just being negative and giving negative feedback. No, I pray, almost about maybe 4 or 5 of my friends call me the hype woman, because I'm honest about how excited I am for their accomplishments and their stuff. So yes, definitely honesty. I took it from being warm lomo to being a hype woman.
Yes, girl, yes. Okay, and then the last question: what do you know as a certainty?
Things will always get better.
Oh yes. Things will always.
I used to say that always. I say that to myself in 2016 when I had lost my job. I was retrenched from my job, and then I was having visa issues. I was facing not deportation, but I was just facing visa issues. I needed to make a plan, and I was just telling myself the one thing about things is that they always get better, and they did, and they continue to do so. So things always get better.
Hey, thank you, my love. All right, you need to let people know where they can find you, what you are doing, because she has a fabulous blog. Let me tell you, this chick is very amusing. You need to go find her blog. Okay, I'll let her tell you her story. Go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm a blogger. I still can't believe that I get to say those words, and they're real. I'm a blogger. I have a lifestyle and travel blog called stamplifestyleblog.com. Yeah, so you guys can go see my musings on www.stamplifestyleblog.com. My favorite article is one I wrote about Livingston and the Victoria Falls, so make sure you check that one out first. Social media at Tubalemye Tuba on Instagram, Tubalemye on Twitter.
All right, you guys need to go check her out. I'm telling you right now, you're gonna love her, and she has fabulous photos as well.
Oh yeah, that I do. Thank you. Some of them weren't taken by me. You can tell the ones that were taken by me, to be honest. Out of focus.
All right, my love. Thank you so much for coming on the Africana Woman podcast. I have really enjoyed this conversation. And I think, yes, we still have a lot to talk about because we need to come and revisit working with toxic bosses and all of that stuff. So, girl, we still got conversation.
And deconstructing your faith in a Christian home. So
yes. Because I do have a few experiences and thoughts around that as well. So yes, you are most welcome to come back. I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate this.
Oh,
this was fun. Thanks so much, Chulu. Until next time. Or on WhatsApp.
The key takeaways from Tuba's story is that your defining moment may be a source of great shame for you. Here was a university graduate from a very loving and stable home, who found herself in an abusive relationship in a foreign country. As you heard, I kept asking her, why did you stay? And she said she was broken down by this man. I commend Tuba for getting out in the way that she saw best, and then seeking healing and finally telling her story. I know her story has made some parents think twice about how they will support their children as they ship them off to universities in other countries. Her story also sparks conversations around how we bring up the last born in the families. Do we baby them? Not just as parents, but even as siblings. A last born in my country is called a kasuli. So when we hear that someone is a last born, we say, yeah. That's why they behave like that. What? No, man. Give them the tools they need to assert independence and responsibility for their own actions. All in all, your story is not for you. It's for someone else to learn and to grow. I know you may be ashamed of what happened, and I suggest that to get over the shame, you have to forgive yourself. It is hard to stop blaming yourself, and it may take some time. All I'm asking is that you commit to shedding the shame by forgiving yourself one step at a time, one day at a time. Okay? Please find Tuba on social media at Tubalemye_Tuba. Tell her you heard her on the Africana Woman podcast. Thank you, dear listener, for making us part of your day by listening in. I truly appreciate you. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend. You can find me on Instagram at chulubydesign. If you say hello, I always respond. Until next week, I want you to remember, know your roots, grow your purpose. This has been a production of Ulendo Creative Media. You can find out more about their services on www.ulendocreative.com.